Everyone, and welcome to the regular monthly meeting of the Arts and Culture Commission. Can I have the first item on the agenda, please?
Item 1, roll call. Commissioners Deaver.
Here.
Chair Hovhanessian. Absent. Commissioner Lee.
Here.
Wagner.
Present.
Chairperson Kavanian.
Here.
Item 2, consent items. At 2A, approval of regular commission meeting minutes from May 20th, 2010 at 2 p.m.
Actually, before we get to that, would you like to... Yes.
The agenda for the June 17th meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall on June 11th, 2010.
Move approval of the agenda.
I have a correction. I don't know when that comes in.
Of the
So
minutes or the agenda?
I'm sorry.
we don't have to move
Minutes.
for that, do we?
Oh, we do at the school board. I forgot.
Wrong hat.
Yeah.
I'll read item 2 again. Item 2, consent items. At 2A, approval of regular commission meeting minutes from May 20th, 2010 at 2 p.m.
I have a change to that.
Okay.
Business agenda item 5A, action items. It states that there was a subcommittee formed that included Commissioner Deaver, and that is not correct. That was before I was actually on the commission.
I was...
That is
That's
correct.
not-
That should be Commissioner Wagner. And actually, for technicality's sake, Commissioner Solis as well.
Oh,
Almador was on that.
my mistake. I
Any other corrections or comments? Okay.
Motion to approve it as amended.
Move approval as amended.
Second?
Commissioner Deaver.
Yes.
Chair Hovhanessian. Lee.
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
Chairperson Kavanian.
Yes.
Item 3, introductions and presentations, and there are none.
Okay.
Item 4, oral communication.
I don't have any cards. Are there any missing? Okay. So moving right along.
Item 5, business agenda, 5A action items. At 5A1, approval of the City of Glendale's participation at the Arts and Economic Prosperity Study 4.
Onion? Yes.
Oh, do you want to speak first, and then I was going to move approval and then open it up to discussion. But I can wait.
Commissioner Wagner is all excited about today's meeting. She just wants to move things ahead. We can do that if you'd like.
I move approval of the city's participation in the Arts and Economic Prosperity Study 4, and I will be happy to speak to it after whatever reporting there is.
Sounds good.
Okay, then I'll make my report very brief. Seems to me that you are familiar with the report. And as this commission remembers, our city was one of the participants of the Arts and Economic Prosperity Study back in 2005. And this year again, Americans for the Arts, who conducts the study, is seeking at least 200 communities to participate in the fourth National Economic Impact Study of the nonprofit arts and culture industry. The report that will be provided to participating cities are resources and tools that can be used to demonstrate the value of the arts to the business community, elected officials, the media, and general public. It will also be very beneficial to the arts and culture organizations in our city to use this up-to-date data when they are trying to communicate to the potential donors. And the official recruitment of partners for the study will begin. It already has begun, but the contracts will be due in September 2010. Currently, we are using the data from 2005, which is getting rapidly outdated, and staff recommends that the city participate to the study, economic impact study of nonprofit arts this year too, which is 2012. The process starts this September, but it will take 2 years to complete. I'll be more than happy.
Just out of curiosity, is that coming out of our budget or is it coming our budget?
Yes, well, the fee for to participate is $7,500, and it will be payable in 3 installments within 3 fiscal year. We thought we are confident that funding sources will be available to participate in this very important.
Commissioner Wagner?
Well, that was one of my questions, and it occurred to me that I would find it useful on an ongoing basis, maybe even every meeting as an agenda item, to have our budget update, so we know what's within our budget and for what we are thankful to other departments and what we might do as a commission to further our budget. So that's one thing I wanted to say. Secondly, it was fun being a part of the survey last time. Well, yes, it was fun. It was a little hard for me to get used to walking up to people as they were leaving shows or walking through the Montrose Art Festival and asking them to sign forms. But it was. I knew it was useful, and you always learn new things. And people were actually willing to help out once they knew what it was about.
How important.
I am, in fact, excited about this because for 2 reasons, but they're related. And one is that through the Workforce Investment Board, I've heard the reports about arts and entertainment being a primary, if not the primary, employer in the region. And so the impact economically on the whole region of arts, and also the impact on education as we're facing budget cuts, to be able to have this data to remind our schools and our legislature of the importance of arts in the curriculum and as future employment training. So it's helpful to me, and I know I've referred to the prior studies, both in connection with the Workforce Investment Board and with the school board. So that's the reason for my vote.
Commissioner Deaver, do you have questions or comments?
Comment that I'm highly supportive of this. I think it's the type of study that is completed in cities that are around the country that are serious about the arts and that are serious about supporting the nonprofit arts organizations that are trying to fundraise for their programs. And it also would support the city itself, which is taking some great steps forward in promoting the arts and starting initiatives for a variety, excuse me, a variety of reasons. But this kind of data will continue to help them communicate the reasons for these types of programs and initiatives to the broader community as well as the funding community, and to help form more private and public partnerships.
Absolutely. And to echo what several of my colleagues have said, it's a very difficult time for the arts organizations, especially when in Glendale you're competing for the same market of funds in terms of both in terms of for asking for funds and trying to raise funds. You're basically asking the same pool of people essentially, and I think this study would be extremely important for those kinds of organizations that especially go out and need to raise funds. I mean, as everybody knows, I'm on the board of the Glendale Symphony, and that's one of the key issues: is how do we raise funds? How do we come up with money? How do we come up with revenue sources? And I think this will help every arts organization in Glendale. So, with that, yes.
I forgot I had another question, and that has to do with the contact person. And I wondered whether the expectation is that would be a staff position, or whether we might, in fact, explore the possibility of enlisting an art student from Glendale College, using a partnership, giving them experience and letting them work perhaps for no money or for a smaller sum.
Well, that's a great idea that we should. But I think in this case, they're asking specific data to be collected for their study, and new students will be very helpful, but it still should be a staff.
Well, the primary contact, yes. But I think in terms of some of the follow-up work,
especially
would
collecting surveys minimum 800
Would be a
audiences.
great,
Very helpful.
a great partnership that would benefit
idea.
our college and our relationship, so.
I might add to that in terms of partnerships, as if indeed this is approved and we move forward on it. I highly support partnerships with organizations that can assist staff in this. Also, I think maybe other departments of the city that are working more with the to overcome any language barriers. I wasn't a participant in the past rounds of this, and so I don't know to what extent that is a barrier, but I'm presuming that that's something we might want to work with folks that work in that kind of outreach, particularly into the Armenian community, to make sure that we're really capturing data from the whole community of Glendale, because I think that'll be the most effective approach.
Yeah, and actually, to add on to that as well, as Commissioner Wagner was asking her questions kept popping into my mind. There are several things. Last time that we did this survey, commissioners were the ones basically handing out the surveys and collecting them. How involved are we going to be in the process? Are we going to be just as involved, or not as much, or have we thought about that even yet? At this point, is it too early?
Commissioner Kivanian, Chair Kivanian, this is new for me, and I'm welcoming all the commissioners to get involved. We can get all the help we can get from you and from your expertise and your many years of being in the this commission. I wasn't able to go into the details. I tried to study the 2005 project in the past, get familiar with what was done in the past, but I'm sure once we're done with our major project, Open Studio Tour, we have to put a lot of time in project. It's a very powerful resource. We do need to spend a lot of time to get our data up to date.
And actually, another one of my comments, and this is just for future reference. Like you said, you weren't part of the first one. So last year, I thought some of the venues that we chose were, the audience was very limited to a very small group of people. And I didn't think that we got as much as we could have with the information that we gathered. So this year, for example, I think one of the places that we should study, because of the whole talk about using San Fernando as an arts location, we should really study to see what how Luna Theater is doing, to see if that information can help bolster either support or not for that kind of San Fernando arts district. So I think that's one of the key locations that we should be studying. But any other comments?
We could also add the First Baptist Church on its first and third Wednesday noon concerts, and their anyway, we can suggest. I assume suggest
Yes,
venues
this item
to you.
has been approved, and we
Right.
know we're moving forward. Then we will bring it back to the commission for your ideas and nominate all the nonprofit organizations I think should be part of this study.
Okay. All right. With that, is there a second for the motion, for Commissioner Wagner's motion?
I'll second it.
Can we have roll call, please?
Commissioners Deaver,
Yes.
Lavanosian's absent, Lee,
Yes.
Wagner,
Yes.
Chairperson Kevanian.
Yes.
5B, discussion items. At 5B1, affordable housing and workspace for artists and art organizations.
Commissioner Deaver requested this item to be on the agenda. Staff doesn't have a report at this time.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, this is something that I just thought would be worthwhile to have a discussion of as a commission, as a body that is in a position to make recommendations to the city of Glendale about things that will support the arts. Since the short time that I've been on the commission, we've been approached by at least two organizations specifically looking for space for exhibiting visual art, space for performing, space for rehearsal. And I suspect that is just the tip of the iceberg when you're talking about individual artists who need space and arts organizations. Also looking at our strategic plan, some of the items that came out of, I think, the 2007 work that was done included initiatives for artist studio or space in the industrial area, developing an arts center, developing an arts community and providing subsidized housing, lofts, and studio space, and an artist residence program. And all of these types of initiatives have been talked about and bandied about in the community and at this commission all, again, look at space. I think there's benefits to the community in co-locating organizations and cost savings for them. It's easier for them to fundraise for their own programs. It works as a revitalization tool within communities for economic development. There's tourism involved in relocating or having people coming into town like our open studio tours do, but this is something that's potentially, if you have enough artists and organizations in a centralized area, to encourage people to come on a more regular basis into the community to see what's happening, to go to tours that are maybe put together by the artists and not falling onto staff's time on an annual basis. And it's also a neighborhood investment. So if you have spaces like this that are integrated between industrial areas and residential areas, there's often programming is coming out of there that's benefiting youth, it's benefiting local neighborhoods and organizations in the area that it's located. Some types of initiatives I just wanted to touch on, and this is all just for throwing out there for discussion, but there are a lot of communities that do referral programs that work with local business owners and property owners who have vacant space or need to rent space or are willing to rent it at low rates because the economy is down. They've had long-term vacancies or working with brokers, and there are some organizations or cities that will then retain a list of these potential landowners and artists and organizations that need space, so you can just put them together. The downside of that, of course, is that you don't have control over the long run of how that space is maintained, how affordable it is if the artists and organizations put a lot of money into it and then the area kind of revitalizes and they get booted out and they're looking for something else. But it is a place to start, and a lot of communities do work with those kinds of initiatives. There's incentives, like we have on the books now currently for affordable or for live-work zoning ordinances. There's things like low-interest loans to encourage organizations and artists to relocate that might help them with their business, might help them. There's the facade improvement program here in the city, but it's not necessarily marketed towards the creative community currently. There's tax abatement sometimes for sales taxes, getting more into sort of state policy, but there are other incentives out there. I know the city is also talking a lot about the Percent for Art program. There's also a density bonus program in the city of Glendale. It's not currently targeted towards space for artists. I believe it's for, if I remember correctly, maybe child care, if that's included in the facility for if a housing developer or other wants increased density, they can sometimes get that in turn for doing things for the city, like providing affordable housing, like providing child care, space or daycare for residents. But there's also programs in other communities that for nonprofit space that they include that in their buildings. So that's another kind of incentive that could be considered and made as a recommendation to the city, as finding other ways of getting funding into the community that's an investment in the community and an investment for the arts. And those were just sort of my thoughts that I had thrown together, and it just the thought of having intentional facility development and incentives and programs that will assist arts organizations and individual artists in having permanent, affordable space, whether it's for their long-term use, for short-term occasional use, End of thought. But I just wanted to throw that out there and have that as a discussion amongst commissioners.
Commissioner Lead? Comments?
Of course.
I don't know you were Commissioner Wagner. Always has a comment.
I think it's a really needed component to helping structure more art and culture in Glendale and for the artists. We should explore more to try to find other resources and to develop from the property owners, because it becomes a win-win overall for everyone. For workspace, it's pretty much always going to be rented out because there's so many artists out there that are always looking for space. So how to get started, I'm not sure, but
I have a thought for how to get started, but one of the thoughts I had as I looked at this, and thank you very much for bringing it up for discussion. One thought would be, could we recommend that the City Council consider including, as they approve projects for affordable housing, that maybe units be set aside for affordable housing for artists or participating artists. But so that's one specific. But it seems to me here's an opportunity for us to, as our commission, to actually start coming up with recommendations for discussion with City Council. And I wonder if Commissioner Deaver might like to come back to our next meeting with a few suggestions, not demand, just for discussion to take to the City Council so that they would have an opportunity to consider. Maybe they've thought about these things, but they haven't thought about them. So we could review them and adjust as needed and at least have some suggestions with which would be willing to help to pass on to the City Council for discussion. I think would be enlivening our role and doing what, as you pointed out, our strategic plan of your suggested we do, so we could actually get moving. There aren't any rules for how we suggest things to the City Council, are there, Mr. Grant?
I mean, you can definitely prepare a report for their benefit, informational report.
They could invite us back for discussion, perhaps. Never know.
Have coffee with us. My question is more of the strategy of actually putting a plan like this into place, and to figure out what we can and we can't do. Which department is really barring? I understand that we work directly with City Council and we don't really have any kind of interaction with, let's say, city departments. But let's say just for information's sake, if we wanted to go and get more information on this, what departments would we contact? Would we contact redevelopment? Because I think this goes a little bit beyond just creating incentives for, let's say, an apartment building to include 2 lofts. I think we can do that, but that's gonna take care of a very little problem. I mean, let's say it would facilitate only so little number of people. I think if we're going to really do this and really help facilitate a change, I think we're going to have to aim a little bit bigger than just, just sending City Council, a nice little letter or informational report or something. I think if we're really going to make steps, we really have to take big steps, and we really have to show City Council that this is a huge. Sir Grant, are you going to chime in? Okay, you had your finger on your mic and I was like, I'm saying something wrong. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
So it really leading us in that direction, and if we're going to do this, we really should, because it sounds like to me the biggest deficit that this community has from an artistic standpoint is a location to show their work. So I think it even goes beyond a loft. Like for me, a loft here, a loft there, an artist community here, an artist community there. That's nice, but it's not really going to, like, we have. For me, it's more like it's like a tidal wave. The tidal wave, the huge wave, is the fact that there's no space. Artists don't have space to show their stuff. They can live in any kind of living condition. I'm an artist. I've done that. I've lived in a little hole in the wall when I was in San Luis Obispo. Why? Because who cares where you live? as long as there's a place for you to sleep and eat, that's all you need. And then and the rest is just being creative and enjoying that process. So I think if we get this started, we're really going to be the snowball is going to roll really quick and become an avalanche. Because if we start with little steps here and there, people are going to start coming to us even more and saying, "You guys have started on this. Why haven't you done this?" And that's really what we have to think of as well. We can create incentives for people to build lofts and so forth for artists. But at the end of the day, what they really need is a space to display art and to perform. Commissioner Wagner?
However, perhaps one item at a time. And the item that was brought to us, the affordable housing and workspace for artists item, it would seem to me would be a start, and I don't see the necessity of us having to do a big report or a lot of research. I think a thoughtful outline of the possibilities with a request to council to consider or to ask for their suggestions on what we might do to further this item, and maybe a couple of others that would add, oh, and by the way, but to get the conversation, the dialogue started, so that we're not working on our own, that we engage the council as an arm of them early on would be my thought. Just
right. Well,
open that conversation.
For me, what I read in this is what is more striking to me than the affordable housing is the affordable workspace. That for me is far more important than the affordable housing.
Then you bring back something for that, and we can send two at once.
Well, certainly. I mean, all I'm trying to say is that what I'm trying to encourage is for us to, we want to take baby steps with this, but what I'm saying is that we're gonna have to take a big leap once we come down to that, because once we turn that road, there's going to be a lot of discussion back and forth. This is more like a warning for us, because it's going to put more work on our shoulders, because we're the representatives of the community, and the community is going to come and talk to us and say, why are you not doing this? Why can't we have more? We want more. So I'm just saying, I'm all for it. I don't think any one of us is going to vote for or vote against anything that's helps artists. So Commissioner Deaver, did you have a comment?
I agree with both of my colleagues. And I think starting the conversation, putting something down that has been thoughtfully prepared. I do think it's important, though, as a body, that we're able to pinpoint a couple of key things that we think, and maybe it is kind of reaching for the stars, knowing that, let's start there, why not? Because I think it's also more compelling to get behind, quite honestly. Especially in a community that's really trying to redefine itself right now, and it's kind of at that crux, and it's kind of the time to put something like that forth. So I would personally, I would be happy to put together, a list of some ideas and anything else that anybody wants to share, and then we can come back, discuss it, and make revisions as necessary. And I think from that, it would behoove us to make some specific top priority recommendations and maybe some avenues about how these kinds of things could happen. And I think that there is indeed need for, there's always, backing on what I do during the day. So I have a fair amount of knowledge of what's happening nationally and what needs of artists are nationally, and I can only assume that reflects here in Glendale as well. But there is often a need for space to display work. If you can't display work, if you can't perform work, then what's the point? So I absolutely agree with that. I think in a community like the Los Angeles area, Los Angeles County, in terms of how expensive it is to not only live no matter what you do, but if you're an artist who also needs to rent space to practice music, to have vast space in which to create large works, rehearsals and have to rent that on the side, they're having an additional burden of cost. And so when you can put together live workspaces, for instance, where all of that is combined under one roof, and you have other artists that are maybe working in different disciplines, but they're sharing collaborative ideas that are becoming programs and initiatives on their own that are extending out into the community, you're creating a place that supports your arts community and supports the broader community as well. So I do think that there is place for driving incentives for people to incorporate artist spaces into whatever they're building, but I think that there is definitely a space to have some sort of project, whether it's a live work or it's a mixed use or it's display space, but something that people can kind of go, I know where art is happening in Glendale, and I can go there on a Saturday, a Sunday, a Friday night, a Monday afternoon. I can probably get a cup of coffee, and I can see artwork, and I can go to a reading, and I can bring my kids, and they have a reason to come. I mean, we all know a lot of things are happening here, but they're happening all over, and unless there is a specific initiative that the city's had to put a lot of money into or some organization has put a lot of investment into, and it's publicized, they come for that weekend and then they go back because there's a zillion things in this county to distract you. But to have something that's iconic in that way in Glendale, I think would speak volumes, because it happens nationally, and it's happening more and more, but it's still not prominent. There are not a lot of communities in this county that have projects that they can look to and say, this is where the arts are in our community.
Mr. Kavanian and Commissioner, since this is just a discussion item, what you can do, I would suggest, is that ask staff to bring it back on the next agenda or the agenda after that, and staff can work with Commissioner Deaver on preparing something that on which you can take some action on. Report to council, giving it, recommendations. That's actually exactly what I was going to say. Thank you for putting it more eloquently than I would have been able to do. Any other final comments or anything?
I recommend that we do that, and then as part of that is to work with, I'm pretty sure it's going to be the redevelopment agency, going to be partnering up with, because they deal directly with housing, those components. So you would probably want to talk to the community plan department as well. Well, just so I'm not sure which we should do first. Should we discuss it with them first to see, and then if not, then we can combine our efforts and then bring it all at once? I would just think we'd start with the council and let them engage the other departments. Right. Okay. And they could come back and give us direction and tell us what to do, maybe. But I think everybody's on the same page with that. Yes. Commissioner Deaver, enjoy. Discussion only. Let us know how we can help.
What just happened?
Yeah, I just said enjoy. I didn't say anything. Next item on the agenda, please.
At 5E2, update on the tour.
The deadline to submit the applications was May 28th, and we have processed all the applications. I'm so pleased to know that we have record number of participants at this year. More than 200 applications from 27 cities, which raises a question that are we going through a change? Is our Open Studio changing its course? Most of our participants from last year, 148 artists that we have at the 2008 Open Studio Tour, almost half of them are not participating this year, which means all the applications that we have received this year, 70% are new artists. We will be analyzing the submissions, the applications, find out the reasons. From my experience and by talking to artists, I have learned that some of them, most of them, who decided to show their work from outside of their home studios don't feel comfortable opening up their home studios, their garages. That's one reason. The second reason is they would like to be around people, they would like to be where the traffic is. Third reason, you'll be surprised, some of the applicants didn't mark the box that they want to be part of the brand gallery exhibition, which we thought very
It's pretty odd.
pretty odd, yes, because they have shown their work several times during other Open Studio tour, and they, for some reason, want to skip that part of the project. So seems to me that we are going through some changes, but it is exciting to know that Glendale received so much attention because we offer this. We are the only city in the region that offers this kind of event for artists for free, and it attracts so many artists from out of state. I have talked to the artists from Arizona to make sure that they know for sure this is Glendale, California, not Glendale, Arizona, but they're very excited to be here just for that reason, because they have an opportunity to show their work in the gallery and be promoted for free, and the space, everything else, be also on our website, is very beneficial to many artists who understand business of fine art. We have exactly 4 more weeks until the opening reception of the event at the Brand Library Art Gallery, but we have many tasks in front of us. The very first thing on my agenda is securing locations for artists who need space. We already have secured some locations, like Brand Art Studio, Kenneth Village. I know there are some businesses who are willing to share their space with and sponsor artists. We have Portos every year. They've been very supportive of art, and they're part of it this year. Adams Square Mini Park will be there. Alex, I talked to Elisa Glickman. She's very helpful and very supportive. She will make a couple of contacts as a liaison of Glendale Merchants Association. And Chess Park. Our most important task at this point is to have our locations, communicate that information with the artists so they will know what to expect. I also met with the gallery director this morning, Brand Gallery, and we went over all the instructions and guidelines for artists, how to submit, how to drop off their artwork, everything that has been done in the past. We went over all these rules again. That information has to be sent to the artist as well. The other thing I'm working on is the advertising. Make sure that the event will get enough advertising and proper publicity on time. We will have postcards, flyers, banners. We have to also update our website. The information currently we have 2008 artists and the map information from the 2008, which is very confusing, so it has to be tabled temporarily until we have the new updated information in the computer. So creating the map and the beeline buses, routes for the beeline buses, that's another big project that has to be done as soon as we have all the venues there for us. Staff requests commission. Any of these tasks that I included, welcome to volunteer any of these areas. Send me your emails. Volunteers are one area that we really need any volunteers on the day of the tour. All these locations who will be exhibiting artists, we need volunteers, representatives, someone from the city to help public with distributing maps and guiding them to the Beeline buses, share information, and there will be many other things that we can ask the volunteers to help. Do you have any questions?
Commissioner Wagner?
I was looking for the card I got, and I couldn't find it, of the cafe something or other on Victory. Victory Cafe, yes. Are they
Yes, I met with-
participating?
Yes, I met with them. They're Patrick's Cafe that we know always been part of this event. They moved to Victory.
Yes.
I went at the cafe. They have beautiful artworks hanging there. They will have one or two artists only at this open studio tour. Across the street from Cafe Victory is, I don't know the name of the business, but
Global something.
some kind of corporation or business.
Marsha Ramos.
Marsha Ramos.
And they have a-
He is the director of, or
I don't know what-
representative of the Burbank
She's
Art
former
Association.
mayor of Burbank, but she works there. That's
Oh,
her
she's the
office.
mayor of-
She's not on the city
Oh,
council anymore, but
Oh, okay.
was-
I talked to her. I went and saw the exhibition. They have 45 artists currently showing their works, and they expressed interest to be part of the show. It's a Glendale address. They have a tour address, and they're bringing 45 artists. Wonderful. We love this kind of applicants. And we have several other big groups, like Glendale Arts Association, La Marche Gallery, who brings 19 artists. Topanga Canyon Gallery brings 9 artists.
Wow. Any other questions, comments?
Well, I started sitting down thinking of possible locations, and I could just email you, but I was wondering about the possibility of using Edison Pacific, Chevy Chase Country Club. They've had, they're reopening, they're doing a grand reopening, if they haven't done it already, and have used their space for art exhibits.
Email me those names.
I don't,
Do you have any connections with the Glendale Community College Art Gallery? They do have an art.
well, I could ask. I'll find one.
There've been a-
And I wondered if we might add as a stop the Arts from the Ashes.
Oh, they are going to be
They're-
part of
okay,
our
good.
open studio tour. They have an application.
Then I thought about the other city venues, like the foyer of the Civic, if it's not
Actually, they have an
occupied.
event on that day.
Okay.
We had to cancel. We originally reserved that space, but Alex Theater has an event on that day. Be able to use only the fourth court area. Maybe one artist only. Our photographer, city photographer, Stephen Coleman. He always shows his work from that area. Because of the weather, we have to remember it's hot summer weather. Unless they use canopies, it's going to be really hot on that side of the trend. I'm visualizing more arts set up on across the street, the other side, which will be more shady, like the 400, 500 blocks, close to Portos and up to Americana.
lobbies. I wondered about the lobby of, I forget the address.
Bank of
but
America.
Well, that, but also the Knapp, Peterson and Clark, the Smith Barney building, whatever the address. Some of the large, the high rises that have large lobbies that are open, that might be accessible. I don't know if we've contacted them.
I haven't contacted anyone. To be honest with you, don't have the connections and time.
Okay. I'll send you an email.
I will appreciate it.
did. I was wondering about, in the past, are the sidewalks utilized, sort of like the farmer's market is done? Is that something like permitting for the day to
I
display
think
work on
we
the
get
sidewalk?
permits for the event.
So,
But we reserve the parking area.
so I'm wondering, but you know how like the farmer's market runs along Brand, there on the along the sidewalk. I don't know what the addresses are between, but clearly there's space to be able to set up small tables and things and be able to have art displays up and down.
Between
Right.
California and Wilson, approximately.
My only concern with that is because it's warm day, a lot of artists might not want to be out there. That's the first part. Second part, artwork straight in the sun is not very
Depends on the artwork.
true.
We have another option, the parks. We have many beautiful parks. One other crazy idea is the Wilson and Wilson and Brand area Hollywood production location. We had that location cleaned up and used canopies. Everyone would have. And the trolleys and make it very convenient for public to visit all the artists and see art as they can. Like I said, it changes the whole open studio tour concept.
The other question I had was whether, because I know that the city has a lot of connections with, particularly right now, with brokers in the community that are leasing space because of the vacant storefronts, but also because of just along the San Fernando corridor and things like that. If there are brokers for any of the large spaces, and I'm thinking of the volume exhibit that was presented to us previously that's over in Atwater, which has the huge warehouse space, and that's a cleaned out space, certainly. But if Glendale has anything similar that's not being used currently, and that the owners would be willing to, throw open their doors for a day and assume maybe that I know it's a legal responsibility in terms of insurance and things like that, but it would give them a lot more visibility as well in trying to rent out those spaces, and there might be a large volume type of warehouse or other. And there's a cool looking building on the other side of the railroad tracks I drive by fairly frequently, some sort of echoey looking building, but that's big vacant signs on it. But and I know that I don't mean that to be a lot of work, but I'm thinking that there's probably internally through the departments that there are connections to these people who are working in those areas, and that maybe somebody from another department could assist by making that phone call and making that connection, and maybe kind of linking it into all the other things that are sort of happening in the city right now as well.
I can look into that, but our time is very limited. We have very short period of time to put together this event, and liability will be a major issue on those cases. I would prefer to have many small businesses to get involved and just to business community be part of this whole event will be very preferable. But I'm expecting to get some responses that I already contacted. Hopefully by the end of next week we will finalize the venues for these artists.
Also, a difficult thing that we experienced last year was that, I had planned on going, I think, to 15 or 16 locations because I knew I wouldn't have time to go to all of them. And that's another issue, too, because it's so spread, the locations are so spread out that you don't have time to go to all of them. And I think that's another major concern, which is why doing it. I would love to do it at someplace like Oakmont or Chevy Chase if they have it available, but to get a mass group of people there and then a mass group of people back, just that trip is enough to make somebody tired or, I'll speak for myself, lazy to go to another venue. Go ahead.
I wondered, I was thinking of that too, how can we keep it central? And I wondered about the Assistance League bill. What if could we enlist the Assistance League? I could make a call on that. It's a beautiful building, beautiful space. The Chamber of Commerce is next door. They might be willing, next to the library, possibly Glendale Presbyterian. I don't know if they'd have an interest or the availability, but if we could get several locations very, close to Brand and close to each other, that would be a help, because I know each year we say, how do we, we can't possibly get to them all. How can we make this more accessible? So,
I think that's a good idea.
Any other questions or comments? I think we've discussed this limits. Next item, please.
5C, reports, and there are none.
Okay. Next item.
Item 6, commission and staff comments.
I'm just going to take a random guess. Commissioner Wagner?
well, okay, if you insist. Well, this is graduation week for the schools. We actually had a graduation from our FACTS program this morning, and have there's middle school promotion tonight. But I did want to mention, since I am on this commission as a representative of the district of the Glendale Unified, I thought I would take this opportunity to say that, contrary to a letter in the newspaper this week, our superintendent is not a tyrant. And in fact, particularly with regard to arts and culture, I thought it's important that this commission know, just among other things, the extent to which he has supported arts, particularly arts at Hoover. When he came to this district and saw a comprehensive high school, and he said, this cannot be a comprehensive high school without a band and a choir and a functioning theater department, and we have those now. And so I thought I would take the liberty to point that out. So after that, I'll say that tomorrow, after 2 graduations, I will be going to the Art for the Ashes event, a little late, but tomorrow, Friday evening. And then perhaps if I get back from Redlands, anyway, I'll see the exhibit as it continues at 210 South Brand. Yes, wait, I have the address right here. 216 South Brand at the future site of the Museum of Neon Art. So with that, I will pass it on.
Thank you. Who would like to take the torch? Shirley, Commissioner Deaver? Should I flip a coin?
I think it's
Okay.
I'm
Deaver, go
happy
right
to.
ahead.
I just wanted to note that the second newsletter from the Arts and Culture Commission went out this past week. Hopefully everybody got that. And if any of my fellow commissioners have input, ideas of things for the next one, will be coming up in 2 months, things that you'd like to say, organizations you'd like to highlight that might be of service to our constituents, I would appreciate that. I want to mention again that I did attend that volume exhibit that had come here that was announced. It was very cool, just an interactive, multidisciplinary, in a very great space. Again, love to see something like that in Glendale. And then lastly, there's I understand that the Vendy, I'm saying that correctly, Vendy Museum, which is in Culver City, has an art installation that has been on I forget now what the boulevard, but it's a section of the Berlin Wall that they have that has been painted and worked on by artists that they've had out as part of the commemoration of when the wall came down last November. And it's my understanding that they are looking at a potential program of being able to make that a moving exhibit amongst different cities. And that's just something that I would actually like to see on the agenda as a possibility, just to discuss if that is a possibility for Glendale. And those are my thoughts.
Cool. Really?
Okay. I hope everybody's gearing up for the summer. I know that every weekend in July there's a function going on. So starting with the July 4th weekend, I know everybody has places to go. Now the following weekend, July 10th and 11th, I hope everybody can make it out to the Lotus Festival in Echo Park. That's a 2-day event. It's being put on by a nonprofit called LA Lotus Festival, Inc., and in partnership with the City of LA Recreation and Parks. Now, the following weekend is Cruise Night on Brand Boulevard. So hopefully, make sure you start marking in your calendars July 10th and 11th is Lotus Festival in Echo Park. Then July 17th is Cruise Night in Glendale. And then our open studio tour is the following weekend on the 24th. So hopefully everybody, put all that in your calendar. So, I hope to see everyone there.
But we have the opening reception on the 18th.
On the 18th,
right after,
correct.
next day to the cruise
After
night.
the
After
cruise
the
night, right after the cruise night. So make sure, mark that in your calendar also, on the 18th. Now then, coming up in October, I haven't set a date yet, but the Unity Festival is geared to go on. So make sure you mark that in your calendars. Okay, thank you. Oh, also, open studio tour. For any restaurants that are listening or any stores, if you allow a few artists to put in, or an artist or a few, to put art in your storefront or restaurant, we will be doing marketing for you in the form of maps and on the website and things like that. So it's a win-win for everyone. We are really looking for locations. So if anybody's listening out there that has a storefront or restaurant that wants to do that, please contact Ripsome at the office. Thank you.
All right. I was going to say a few things, but I think I've forgotten all of what I was going to say. I did want to mention, actually, that I've been getting great responses from people who have gotten our newsletter, actually. I saw Lenore Solis at Conrad's a couple of nights ago, and she definitely mentioned a big thank you to staff and the commission for doing that. And yes, it was my mistake. I was supposed to have written something up in in the second edition, but I completely had no time to do that, to give some quality work thought to it. Let's see. Oh yes, I did want to mention Summer Night on the Plaza, presented by the Committee for a Clean and Beautiful Glendale, is going to be Thursday, July 29th. And I'm giving more than a month, but things are busy in July. From 6 to 9 p.m. at City Hall, Perkins Plaza. That's 141 North Glendale Avenue. And because I can't remember anything else, let's see, let me check. No, that's about it.
What's the time for our opening reception?
It's Sunday from 3 to 5.
3 to 5 at
By
Brand
18.
at
Brand
Brand Park.
Library.
Brand Library Art
3 to 5.
Galleries.
Yeah.
Of course, we will try to be there from 2:30 to until 5:30. We will need some help at that event also, volunteers. Brand Association probably will be able to help us.
Okay. And and just to remind my colleagues, this is high time for us to volunteer for things, I think, because it's getting a little busy for not only our commission, but just for the community. There's a lot of things happening. So,
Would you like us all to email you our available? I mean, I'm planning to
Please.
work wherever you need me at the open
I will
studio tour
appreciate it.
and to come to the
Cruise night.
help with the reception, to cruise night.
You're still interested in volunteering at the cruise night? We will have a booth,
Okay.
and I will send you an email. Maybe you can decide who will take what hours. You need to take turn. At which time is best.
All right. I think that's about it. Any other final thoughts? Anybody remember anything that they wanted to say? Okay. All right. With that, next item, please.
Item 7, written communication.
None? Really? We should count how many months in a row we haven't had written communications. All right. Next item, please.
Adjournment.
I'll do it. Don't threaten me. Adjourned. We are adjourned.